started racing at a really young age. I was around 6 years old when I got on my first dirt bike. And from there on out, we started just traveling all over the place and doing races. We won a lot of races, won a couple of championships. And then I started breaking bones. I broke my femur and my collarbone. So my dad said it was about time to hang that up and get on four wheels with a roll cage. So the first car I ever got into was a little Bandolero car. We took it down to Anderson Motor Speedway and did a few tests with it, just getting me used to being in the car and getting used to the whole feel of four wheels on pavement. And then we went down to Lanier and I finally got to race it. It went all right. I was just having problems being claustrophobic in the car with the halos around you and everything like that. The week after my first Bandolero race is when I broke my leg on my dirt bike. I was just out in the backyard practicing starts, and I just hit a root and fell off it basically, and just snapped my leg in two. So I think that was like the real times when I realized I didn't need to be on that, risk getting any more hurt, and just do something a little bit safer. Whenever I broke my leg, it sidelined me for about 6 to 8 months. So I got really out of shape and just kind of lost a lot of interest in dirt bikes. So I tried to get back on one, but I just didn't have it in me. Didn't really have the will. And like I said, I just wanted to get on something a little bit safer and try and make more of a career out of racing instead of dirt bikes. So we ended up buying like a little 4-cylinder mini stock car and ended up testing it a lot. First season at Anderson Motor Speedway in the 4-cylinder didn't go that great. Kind of just had my crashing phase in me and still just learning like what a real kind of full-bodied stock car is. Like I said, it didn't go that great. I learned a lot though. But next season we got a lot more help, especially from Steve Alverson and Matt Bagley, just really helping me out with setups and spotting and really just kind of getting me into the whole racing part of it. Even my second year of mini stocks didn't really go that great. The finishes were getting a lot better, but still just having problems every once in a while. I ended up flipping my first time down the backstretch at Anderson in one of those things, which wasn't really that fun. It's just kind of like a scary roller coaster with sparks going everywhere. I've had a lot of dirt bike wrecks, but nothing really compared to that. Just a whole different feelings being hung upside down in a car. The season went on at Anderson in the second year of mini stocks. We started getting a little bit better finishes, and my dad started putting together a late model stock car for next year, and he's just gonna let me kind of test around in it and see what I could do in it. We ended up getting another car too, an older one for me to just kind of mess around with at Anderson and just, like I said, just see what I could do with it. So that's kind of how I got started into the late model stuff. And then the next year after that, we started doing limited late model down at Greenville, and we followed the Southeast limited late model tour around, and we had a lot of good finishes. I don't think we ever really had any bad crashes. So one race that sticks out the most to me would probably be my first win at Greenville Pickens Speedway. The whole year we were doing pretty good. We just could never finish off with a win. We could always lead races, but we never could finish it off there at the end. And my first win, we went out there and set the pole and led every single lap. Ended up being a 13-second gap for my first win. So I think that was probably one of my most memorable wins, especially being my first limited win. So my biggest heartbreak that year was probably going up to Tri-County Motor Speedway for a limited race, and we were running really good during the race. I think it was like a 50 or 75 lap race. I think we were leading the whole race, and then we had a car in the back, kept spinning out and bringing out cautions, and we started to get it real tight in center. And I think if I went back and chose the outside on the restart, I think it might could have been a little bit different, but we chose the inside. The guy on my outside just kind of held me down, and I was just way too tight to contend with him and ended up finishing second. But I really wanted to win that race, kind of first time traveling around and competing for a win would have been really cool. So the year after my limited series, we moved up to late model stocks, and we were going to try and do the South Carolina Rookie of the Year deal for the NASCAR Wheel All American Series. We knew it was going to be a really long season. We were going to have to do a lot of races. And I think we ended up doing 43 races that year. That was really hard mentally and physically, because all we were doing was just racing every single weekend. Wasn't having any time to do anything but race. I know we traveled to Myrtle Beach just about every other weekend. And 4 hour drive down there, 4 hour back. If we weren't there, we were at Greenville. If we weren't there, we were at Anderson, or we were at Anderson, then Greenville, or Anderson, Myrtle Beach, racing 2 races in a weekend kind of thing. But we ended up getting the South Carolina Rookie of the Year deal. That was a really big deal. Had a lot of competition, and just being able to go to the NASCAR awards banquet was really cool. My sophomore year in late model stocks was probably my most successful year. We only ran about 9 times, I think, but we ended up with about 5 wins and 4 at Greenville Pickens. I also got my first sweep. I got to win both races that night. And then we went down to Anderson and picked up another win. So next season, I was with Anthony Campy Racing, doing Pro Late Model straight rail racing. We ended up doing about 10 races. We ran the Show Me the Money series down at Montgomery Motor Speedway, and the Alan Turner 100 races down at Pensacola. My first race didn't go that great, the Alabama 200. We had a lot of problems during practice. We had a motor blow and radio problems, and just anything you can imagine just went wrong in that race. So the guys worked all night long. They stayed at the track all night, changing motors, for me to get out on the track and just try and get some practice in the next day. I think we only had like 2 15 or 30-minute practices just for me to get acclimated to a straight rail car, and just getting used to like a rack and pinion, and just the weight of those straight rail cars was a lot different than I was used to with a late model stock car. I only had about 30 minutes to do it, so it was a struggle, definitely, but we just kind of went with it, and I think we qualified a little further back than we wanted. I think it was like around lap 120 or something. We had to restart, and everybody just piled up, and we just got caught in it and ended up killing the car. It was a really big bummer for my first race with them, and it just didn't really go as planned as what we wanted to. But after that, we went back to Montgomery and ended up getting the pole, and then led every single lap of the race. So that was a really big comeback from what we had. The rest of the year went pretty good. We either had a lot of good luck or a lot of bad luck, or a lot of both in one night. I think we ended up with 4 or 5 wins this year and 2 or 3 poles. And so we ended up deciding to go to the Winchester 400 race, the Pro Late Model version of it, and just see what we could do there. When we got there, it was just a totally different feeling being at such a historic track like Winchester, and the 33-degree banking was definitely like an insane feeling, especially in a Pro Late Model. We're holding it just about wide open just in practice. So qualifying started coming up, and we had a lot of rain that weekend, so we were doing group qualifying. We went out with a pretty good group of cars, but I wasn't really expecting the car to be how it was. It ended up being a really good car in qualifying. I think I was on my 3rd lap of 6 laps, and I was just about holding it wide open. My fast lap ended up holding it wide open during 1 and 2, and I ran up on a slower car in front of me, 3 and 4, which slowed me down a lot. But we ended up still getting the pole and actually set a track record up there for a Pro Late Model. That was definitely a really cool moment, being able to go up to Winchester for my first time and set a track record, knowing how many people have been up there and racing all their life and doing that. So I definitely think that was probably one of the highlights of that year. So about halfway through the Pro Late Model season, I got an opportunity to go and drive an ARCA car at Iowa with Winchon Racing, and so we went out there and tested. Definitely a surreal feeling being out on a track like that. Definitely the biggest I've been on at that point. They say it's a short track, but it definitely doesn't drive or race like a short track at all. Running up against the wall or down against the bottom, really anything that works with your car, you can do. Went out and we did the race. It was probably one of the hottest races I've ever been at. During the day, we were hitting, I think, 123 heat index. So it's definitely a physical struggle being out there and being in the car all day and testing. But it cooled down a little bit during the night. We didn't qualify that good. We were struggling with the car a little bit, just being really, really loose, going in the corner and tight in the corner and then loose back off. You know, we did everything we could to work on it, and we had our 2 pit stops during the race to work on it. So the race started, and we were off to a good start. We picked up a few positions, still just learning how like that speedway effect on the track was working and messed around a little bit with the aero. 10 to 15 laps in the race, we were already up against the wall, just kind of screaming for tires and just doing everything we could to just stay up and contend. Both our pit stops, we made the car a little bit better. Near the end, it was just getting so hot. The car just kind of started going back down and sliding around, and I was just kind of struggling, waiting for the checker flag to fly. So after Iowa, we went to Salem, Indiana with same team, Wintron, and we went up and tested about a week before the race. We got the car actually really, really good, like real good. We were pretty happy with the car at the end of the test session that time, and when we went back, we were still pretty good. I think we fell off just like a little bit, but we were up there in the top 5 in practice times with everybody else. So that was a big plus, a big pickup from Iowa at least. And during the race, we had a really good car then too, but we just never could really catch a break. You know, I was always stuck on the other side you don't want to be on, and never could get a good pass on some of the guys in front of me. I think we ended up finishing 8th or 9th, but I think we had 5th or 6th place car. It just couldn't really get around any of the cars I wanted to. Just couldn't do what I wanted to during the race. So going between the 3 cars that I drove that year, the Pro Late model, the ARCA, and the late model stock car, it was all a huge learning curve between the 3. The ARCA car and the late model stock car were the most similar together, being a parameter style chassis and a little bit heavier. The ARCA car was the heaviest at I think 3,300 pounds, and late model stock was around 3,000 to 31, depending on what motor we were running. The Pro Late model was 2,700 pounds with the same motor as the late model stock car, but a lot better brakes and a lot lighter of a car. I think the biggest struggle between going through between all 3 of the cars was just the steering. When I did my ARCA races and I went back to the Pro Late model car with the rack and pinion, it was a huge struggle kind of getting back used to how sensitive they are. Also, another big thing was the turning on them. You know, a Pro Late model car makes you feel like you're turning the entire way around, even off the corner. It was making me think I was loose, but I just had to get back to the feeling of what it felt like. So at the end of the season of my Pro Late model stuff, we started talking to some NASCAR teams about doing a truck race or 2, just get me approved for my NASCAR license and things like that. We ended up going with Young's Motorsports to Phoenix International Raceway, or it was ISM, doing my truck debut. That was another kind of big learning curve, but it was kind of similar to the ARCA car. Just the biggest thing was like they are so much downforce, and the aero plays such a huge role in those trucks especially like when you're around somebody. In practice, we did fine. We had a couple motor problems during practice. Only got about 20 laps of practice. Qualified near the back. Still just getting used to the truck and how the track was and the tires and everything like that, and just not trying to tear anything up. During the race, though, we actually had a really good truck. The whole deal was just kind of ride around the back and just get approved to go to Homestead. So I couldn't really race that much. I didn't want to get up there and cause a wreck or get in a wreck and end the night short. So I made passes when I could. The whole race, I was just telling myself that just to hold back and not do anything stupid, and just doing what I had to do to go to Homestead, basically. But our pit stops went great. Pit road speed was fine, everything like that. But like I said, we had a really good truck. We were just riding around near the back. At the end of the race, nothing really happened. We didn't have a mark on the truck or anything like that. So I got approved to go to Homestead, and that was probably the biggest learning curve of my career yet. going to a 1.5-mile track like Homestead. But a good thing about Homestead was it kind of suits my driving style, being able to race against the wall or in the middle or just really wherever you wanted to go. Tracks like that seem to suit me a little bit better. But it's still just a huge learning curve. Just the speed and, like I said, the aero on these trucks are insane. I struggled as a driver a lot during practice and just trying to learn and watch and do everything I can just to pick up a little bit of speed. But in our last practice, we did a mock run, and I just kind of just did what I had to do to try and get up on the board. We ended up finishing like 16th or 18th in practice, which was a huge pickup from the first practice. Qualifying got rained out, so we started on owner's points, which I think I was around 16th place. I didn't really want to be that high up. We talked about going to the rear just so nothing happened, being a championship race, everything like that. But we didn't end up dropping back. We just kind of played it by ear and dropped down and let them race it out for a few laps before we started really picking it up. So Homestead Speedway is really, really rough on tires, kind of like the Myrtle Beach Speedway we have here in South Carolina. 5 laps in the race, we were already right against the wall, screaming for tires on the radio. Then we started kind of getting on a strategy. On the last stage was our longest stage, and we can't go the whole stage without pitting and getting fuel. So we stayed out as long as we possibly could and hoping for a caution. I think we ended up getting up to 5th position during that really long green flag run. It didn't really plan out how we wanted it to without the caution, but I think if we had the caution, we definitely could have been inside the top 10 because everybody already had their tires, and we were the only truck without them. But I did my first green flag stop that race, which it went really good. It was a lot better than what I thought. It was really stressful over the radio, communicating like when to come in, when to drop down, and how hard I need to drive it to the pit road entrance to it. But everything went smooth. I got on my pit stall pretty smooth and got off really good. And then we just kind of started passing all the trucks back that I lost down the lap to. I think we ended up getting back to 21st or something, somewhere around there, and without a scratch on the truck, so it went pretty good. At my truck debut at ISM Speedway, it was my first time ever being at a NASCAR race or seeing a NASCAR track. So walking in there was definitely like a surreal feeling, looking up and seeing all the mountains around you and the huge grandstands they put up, and being there in the pits and seeing my truck with my name on it, knowing I'm about to go out there and be out there with everybody. But it's definitely cool. NASCAR makes you really feel welcome. They do a rookie meeting, and after the rookie meeting, the past champion, I think it was Brett Moffitt this year, takes everybody around in the pace truck and shows you the line and kind of gives you a few tips about what to do and what not to do. Even during the driver introductions, seeing all the fans in the stands and walking out on the big stage and shaking everybody's hand, that was a really big moment for me. Never been able to do something like that. So after the Homestead race in the truck, we started working on 2020 plans and talking to a few teams and just seeing what we could do. But we ended up being able to get a deal with JD Motorsports for 20 races next year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, doing 20 races and just seeing what we can do next year, and hopefully we can just get some nice solid top 20 runs and keep the car in one piece. As much fun as I have racing, it really wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for my sponsors, Project Hope Foundation. They came on board last year and really helped me out getting to my Pro Late model and my ARCA and my truck races. And it was also really cool to be able to be a part of them winning the Betty Jane France Humanitarian Award. We got to get Joe Vaughn, the head chairman of Project Hope, involved in that organization and compete for the $100,000 grand prize. And it was really cool to be able to seeing Joe's face up on stage receiving his reward really meant a lot, knowing that I felt like I had a pretty big role in him being involved in what he did, and knowing that I helped, or we all helped a lot of kids at the Project Hope Foundation.
The two people who probably helped me the most get to where I'm at right now, I'd have to say my grandpa and my dad. If it wasn't for them two, would probably be playing some regular football sport or lacrosse or basketball or something. Definitely wouldn't be where I was if it wasn't for my grandpa's history and my dad's history and all they do for me. Every weekend I'm getting a call from my grandpa he's telling me how to drive the car out there. And I got my dad in my ear 24/7, helping me be able to communicate and just he knows what I need without me opening my mouth. So that's really cool being able to see my dad come from, not really knowing what I want to when I come off the track, he knows exactly what's wrong with the truck. Having my grandpa and my dad as past racers, they really know how to get me to communicate and what I need from the car. Especially now, my dad's been with me, or we've been doing this so long with him by my side. I come off the track and I open my mouth and he already knows exactly what was wrong with the car. Just him knowing me and we've been racing a pretty good while now. It's definitely really cool to have a dad like that. Being a third generation driver, my grandpa, Buddy Howard, and my dad, Rodney Howard, really means a lot for me because it seems like wherever I go, I'm getting recognized as Buddy's son or Rodney's son or something along those lines. So they have both been probably the biggest impact on my racing career. Just everything they do for me, all the support I get from them too is just phenomenal.